The Tysons Gift podcast was created to promote the normalization of metaphysical and spiritual topics, particularly the reality that we are all eternal souls having an earthly experience. Obviously, this will cover a wide berth of topics such as animal communication, mediumship, the paranormal, past life regression, energy healing, you name it. Brandon hopes to entertain his audience with fascinating discussions with experts, as well as everyday folks who have metaphysical experiences and knowledge to share. The intention is to help make esoteric topics fun, relatable, and credible for audiences of all backgrounds. And here is your host of the Tysons Gift podcast, Brandon Wainwright.
Hello and welcome to the Tysons Gift podcast on WLTK-DB. I'm your host, Brandon Wainwright. This is our third show, so we're still very new to all this, but can't start the show off without our our beautiful mascot, Pepper Wainwright. She's not looking like she wants to be here right now, so I'll just announce her and then let her go here. Well, you don't want to be here? You ready to go? Want to go play? All right. So anyway, have to do it. If you've read my book, Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide, you'll understand why Pepper needs to be the mascot. So tonight we have a really interesting show for you. We're going to have Todd Wilcox on the show. Todd is an energy healer like me, but very different from me. He has a whole different methodology that he uses, and I think you're going to find it very fascinating. But in the just to kick things off, I'm going to have our producer Todd Bates come on, and the reason I'm going to do this is because we had a session today, Todd and I did, and so a healing session, and I wanted him to talk a little about it because it was successful, as most of the ones with him are. But Todd, can you pop in?
Of course. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great.
Okay,
a lot better.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking about your many ailments. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, Todd, the level of ailments that he has is fairly modest, so he probably doesn't think so. But he's a good. I love working with him because he soaks up the energy like a sponge. And just to clarify, I live in northern Florida. Todd's up in Illinois, and yet I do distance Reiki. Well, actually not Reiki. I use spiritual assisted healing technique most of the time with Todd, but it's equally effective from distance versus in person.
I agree.
And it just so happens that we had our session today, so that'd be fun to talk about it. We do it about once a month. But Todd, do you want to kind of share what?
Yeah, I mean, what it was. I've been doing a lot of voiceovers and things the past few days with I do a narration for a TV show, and they are going gangbusters with dropping these things, and I've been doing a lot of different voiceovers and things using my voice and throat. Brandon came in today, and it was like exactly what I wanted. What I said, Brandon, I need my throat chakra ripped out, power washed, and put back in. And that's exactly what it felt like. It was very cleansing. Now, the thing with his sessions, I don't know what it is, because I've had these before and they weren't very effective. With yours, I feel the energy. I feel the warmth, the numbness, and then you feel the area. It's almost like a black hole, like things get just sucked right out of it. That's the best way I can describe it.
Did you experience numbness today?
Yes, the numbness and warmth.
It mostly in your throat area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Back.
Awesome.
My back definitely too.
Yeah, you described feeling like right after the session, you described feeling like you could feel the energy moving from place to place.
Almost
Yeah.
like not
Yeah.
like hands, but lighter than hands inside, like cloudy hands inside. That's kind of how the best I could describe it.
That's so cool. I
Yeah, it's
love
pretty
it.
amazing.
Yeah, because
And
on my end, it doesn't necessarily, it's a different experience on my end. I feel it like I feel electricity, warmth, that sort of thing, but it's not exactly the same. So it's always interesting to hear what a client or patient, if you will's experience is, because it's completely unique. The each healer has a different unique experience with the way they work. Usually there's similarities, but it's never exactly the same, and the people receiving also have a different experience. So I love working with you though, Todd, because you feel it on such an intense level. Like for me, when I receive, I don't feel near as much as when I give. So it's, I'm kind of, I always feel bad when I'm receiving
that's your
from
gift.
people. Well, yeah, that's what comes the most natural for me is the giving. But I feel bad when I'm working in partnership, because I have a number of people that I exchange with. And I usually don't have as much feedback for them as they have for me, which is kind of a drag, but the result, I get results. I just can't describe necessarily what, you know,
I can't. I mean, I can't thank it enough, and I'm gonna get Sherry involved with it, and
cool. Yeah.
because she needs it in certain areas too, and I think it'd
Yeah.
be beneficial for her. I
Well,
really
the,
do.
the thing about energy healing is that, people tend to think of it kind of like, like Western medicine, like you've got a problem. So I'm going to go to the doctor and have the doctor eliminate the, this issue that I have. And what you're going, you're wanting the doctor to eliminate the manifestation of the problem, the symptom, but not necessarily get, most our model of thinking isn't necessarily getting to the foundation of what the issue is. And the reality is that everybody can use healing. I mean, we
Mhm.
all, if you're having a stressful week where you just got pent up stuff, maybe you've got an issue with a close relation, that you're having trouble processing. Well, all of that has an impact on you spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. And so that's the thing about the energy healing is it's not so much a matter of I'm going to go in and fix you as much as it is a matter of just health. Like, you eat, you're going to eat lots of fruits and vegetables and a healthy diet. Well, that's a way of taking care of yourself.
Mhm.
Healing is another way of nurturing and nourishing your body, right? I mean,
I agree.
it's a different paradigm, a different model, a way of looking at things, especially in the Western way of looking at things. Very different.
Right.
So, and you, when we worked on your arm last month, when you had the carpal tunnel, which you
Yeah,
thought
that
was
oh,
it,
man.
it was similar, right? I mean, you had
It was.
the numbness came in, but it went away and it never came back, right?
No.
Yeah. So I love it. Anytime, because I got to be honest, I got bad news from another client today where he told me, he's not getting any results from what we're doing. And I wouldn't
Just
say,
gotta keep trying.
yeah, I mean, that certainly isn't typical, but this isn't like 100%, foolproof thing here.
Right.
It's a practice, and there's a lot of different variables involved. The practitioner, the receiver, the client, what's going on with them, why are they receiving the healing, all that sort. I've talked about this in the past, but I love working with you because not only do you enjoy it and you bring a great attitude to it, and you really appreciate what it's about, but so far you always get results. So if we ever have a session where you don't get results, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Oh, I'll tell you if that ever happens, I will let you know. I mean,
So
you have to, I think. That's how we
yeah.
all
Oh,
grow, right?
absolutely. No, no, true. Honesty is, the reality too is that, you can't, it's a tendency that we have. I have, it's less and less so now, but it's very easy to get attached to what the results are. Getting attached to outcomes.
Mhm.
And the thing about spiritual work is the outcomes don't necessarily present themselves in an obvious fashion every time. Like you wanted to heal your neck, and the healing manifested in that form. But if it didn't achieve that, it still would have healed you. You still
Right.
would have received a healing and a benefit from it.
Well,
So,
here I am talking, and I don't sound like Peter Brady hitting puberty.
but right, but exactly, but if it didn't, if for some reason you didn't receive that, you still did have a scratchy voice. That doesn't necessarily mean that there wasn't a healing that took place.
Right,
And so the person that's when you approach this, it's important to approach it with an energy of gratitude, open-mindedness, and trying to get the most out of it on a spiritual level that doesn't necessarily manifest in the way that we consciously expect.
Mhm.
But it's very difficult to approach it that way. It took me a couple of years before I started to wrap my brain around that. Or not started, before I really wrap my brain around it. There's so much ego involved. Oh, I didn't heal them. I didn't provide them with a product that or a worthwhile session, and that's just not true. So, but anyway, I really I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to our next healing next month.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I can't wait for it.
So the next person that we're going to have on is Master Todd Wilcox, energy healer extraordinaire. And if Todd, you want to go ahead and bring Todd up? There he is. There he is, the slipstream shaman himself.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
So thanks for being here, Todd. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you still at work?
I am. Yeah, I never get to leave. I'm pretty much living every. Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I've got a long day in front of me. We'll just end there.
So Todd is just to give you a little information about Todd. Todd is the general manager of a very large outdoor store in Oregon. Like what would you call it? How many square feet is the store you manage?
It is the sales floor is about 70,000 square feet, and then there's another 40,000 in back. So it's about the size of an average Walmart. Yeah, it's a big store.
So this is what Todd does for a living, for his money. In case you're thinking that this sort of thing is a charlatan at work, Todd, all the healing that Todd does up till now, anyway, is done just with his desire to help is all the payment that he's asked for. There are problems that come with that approach, as we've discussed many times in the past, and not the least of which is that if Todd did this for a living, he could help a lot more people. But I still think it's very remarkable that you help so many people while working such a demanding job like that. So kudos to you.
Thank you. That's nice.
I am going to read your bio that you provided me. So Todd has had a lifelong fascination with alternative healing. He is trained in neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, hypnosis, and emotional freedom technique, or EFT. His first book, Slipstream Shaman, Using Quantum Healing for Individuals, Community, the Planet, and Beyond, is available on Amazon as well as slipstreamshaman.com. And so I've read his book 2 different times. Just going to do a little shout out for it. I read it a while back when I first became aware of it, and then I also read it again in the lead up to the show. And it's a great read. It talks about Todd's process of how his methodology and a bunch of his case studies, and it's really interesting. But it's only a little over 100 pages. It's a very short book, and it's designed to give you a really clear taste of what he does, why he does it, and to introduce you to the possibility of doing your own, working with his technique. This is a technique that he developed himself, but he's trying to share it with the world. So it's one of those things where you don't have to commit your whole life to reading the book. You can read this in a couple hours, and it's you'll get a lot out of it. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's true. It really can be read in a couple hours, and you get a lot out of it. Oh, and I'd like to. A friend of mine commented on my shirt. Thank you, Shannon, who who's out there in Illinois. I appreciate the comment. But I've got this for those of us 80s people that grew up in the 80s, the best decade ever. I'm wearing my Better Off Dead Lane Meyer t-shirt. Yes, he is the K-12 champion in 1985. And I was only in 8th grade when it came out. But boy, I remember my friends at lunch talking about the guy snorting snow off of his hat, on the mountain and stuff. And I watched it the following weekend and I was hooked immediately. I've probably seen it I've probably seen it at least 50 times, probably more like 100. And I even, Todd says, I want my $2.
I was going to do the same.
I was such a big fan of this movie and still am. I still know it like the back of my hand. But I loved it so much. And I had so much, on a lot of different levels, I loved it, that I actually wrote my critical paper trying to get into UCLA Film School on that movie, not realizing that they probably wouldn't appreciate that, which, to be honest with you, I don't know why. It's just, to me, it's pretentious because it's an awesome movie on so many levels. It may not be The Godfather, but it's a great movie. And so shout out to Savage Steve Holland, the director, John Cusack, and Aaron Dozier, the much underrated actor that played Roy Stalin. And also to my cousin, who lives here in where I live in Northern Florida. He actually got me this t-shirt. It's kind of a cool story. So he and I grew up in California, just moved here last year. We didn't see each other in person until 2021, but it's almost like we were raised together. He is as big a fan of this movie as I am. He knows it as well as I do. It's kind of incredible, actually. So anyway, enough about that. Oh, okay. And one other thing, I like to share a little bit of personal stuff just to get the show started, give a little humanity to it. So last week it was the mowing and all the dryness and the boogers, the dirty boogers getting up, and when I was out working in the yard. This week, it's this morning when I went to brush my teeth. Okay, I'm a dog lover. Well, I actually brush my dog's teeth every day. I've learned over the years that it's just one of those things. You keeping your oral health of your animals is really, really important. Not to mention the fact that they don't get the bad breath that they would normally get. So I keep the toothpaste in my bathroom, right near where I keep my own toothpaste, and I actually use an electric toothbrush on them. I just use the head that I just finished with, and it's a little worn out. I put that on for them, so they actually get an electric. Well, I accidentally started to brush my teeth with dog toothpaste this morning. I'm sure you probably saw where that was going. And I was like brushing. I was like, it didn't taste near as bad as you would think, but it definitely was not right. And it was one of those deals where you're like sitting there and it takes a couple seconds for you to process what's happening. Like, what the? So anyway, there it is. Dog toothpaste is a no-go. Went right back to my Colgate. Okay. So Todd, can you, so again, Todd is, sorry to detract so much, but Todd is the author of the Slipstream Shaman, Todd Wilcox, and slipstreamshaman.com. And he is an energy healer. Todd, why don't you describe your process? Actually, you know what? Why don't you, before you do that, why don't you describe, because here you are, you're a middle-aged man. So obviously you've done a lot of other things prior to this. And you manage a giant outdoor store. So clearly you're not like a Mr. Woo-woo who delved into the esoteric arts and kind of was, off the beaten path all your life. You're more of a conventional guy on a lot of levels. So what brought you into this?
Okay. But first, before we do that, I can't believe you talked about boogers and Savage Steve Holland and all that good stuff, and then I have to talk about me. So that's not fair.
Hey, it's a different kind of show.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm like you said, I'm kind of a boring guy. I work too many hours, and so I'm not out being crazy or anything. Usually my hobbies are taking a nap and hanging out with my kids. But
Understandable.
yeah, I've always just been excited about things that weren't quite normal. So, if I heard that somebody saw a UFO, I had to talk to them. If somebody had a near-death experience, I wanted to know about it. If somebody, as a little kid, cancer, leukemia, those kind of things were a death sentence. And if somebody survived it, I really was curious how that happened. So the unusual is what always drew my attention. And many times, as I would hear on the news, read things about people that survived some ugly disease, a lot of it was their mindset and how they approached it that way. And so that was probably what got me interested in these things. How do we do it outside of medicine? Or probably a better way to say that, how do we do it so that it meshes with the medicine? Because I think medicine by itself does a lot of great things, but if you've got the blockage, if you've got an energy blockage, or if you have if you have a thought that keeps you sick, those, like you said earlier, we haven't addressed the underlying causes. We're going after the symptoms and that problem, but why did all these things happen? And those were the things that interested me. Why did this person get cancer? Why do they keep getting cancer? Why do bad things keep happening to this person? Why does this person keep going in these patterns? And so that's where my interest was, and always just wanted to be involved in helping. I'm that guy that they talk about in the paranormal community, when everybody's running out of a building, I'm running in. And it doesn't matter if it has to do with ghosts or fire or gunshots or whatever the case is. I'm always going the wrong way because I want to be there to help. And so those two things just kind of converged. And when I finally found out what my purpose was, and it took me till I was about 50 to figure out what my purpose was, and it's to help, just two words, to help. That was when everything really started to kick into high gear, and I started looking at things differently, and how do I help? It was no longer about me. Before, things like this would have been about how I'm going to make career moves. But this is, how do I help? And I'll figure out a way. We've talked a lot, and you've been a great mentor with that. And I never hold it against anybody if they charge, and I think it's great that they charge and great that people pay, because it really makes them part of the process, and they're holding themselves to the fire. If I'm going to pay for this, I'm going to make sure it works, kind of thing. And so yeah, there's nothing wrong with charging, but for some reason I've got this thing in my head that says you don't charge for this. Eventually we'll be doing some trainings and things like that. And there's a couple more books that'll come out. And that's where I think we'll get everything to balance out and get me doing this full time and helping more, and helping a lot of people learn this process, or learn enough of this process that they can create their own. And I think that is wonderful. It gives me chills thinking about it. If you read the book, everybody has a different quantum room. They're all different, and they're all way cooler than mine. I mean, mine's mist. It's just dark swirling mist. Everybody else has a cool room. So everybody that I've worked with has surpassed me on creating a quantum room. And it's watching my kids grow and develop and pass me on things, watching people at work grow and develop and pass me on things. That's what really makes me happy. And so as I'm watching people that I'm training to do energy work, do something that's just so wild and out there that I never would have thought of it really makes me feel good and really gets me excited. And that's what this is all about, is helping people and helping people grow.
So you're not just about being a brand of healer. You're really trying to start like a movement, like or at least play a part in the movement.
Absolutely. And that movement's going to be, I hope it's a very eclectic, very big movement that everybody's doing their own thing, but adding to the energy, making things better, raising the consciousness of the world, raising the frequency and vibration of the planet, and getting us to a much better place.
Yeah. I think, what I was talking about little bit earlier with everybody has a different, first off, everybody's psychic, right? Everybody has these abilities, and everybody has has different gifts, different levels of the same thing. Like what you do, the quantum room, for me, that's kind of out of my wheelhouse, at least at this point. But what I do is also powerful and
Yes,
complements what you do. And
absolutely.
we've worked together quite a bit, trying to help one particular person. So I think you and I kind of, we have similar goals here of just trying to be our own humble voice, trying to spread the word. But I think that's pretty amazing that that you have this modality that's so unique and so powerful, that you're trying to share with other people. Because honestly, and what you said about the, trying to further it as a career, that to me is something that I have, I've also struggled. I think unless you grew up in some, in some like spiritual, like family or a group where you were always set in motion to do this spiritual type of work. If you grew up and lived in the Western world, in the United States, and you're trying to make your way, I think it's very difficult, or it's outside the norm. It's outside of the normal model that we're trained from birth to follow, to not pursue these types of things to be career success. When that career success, of course, involves so much of the ego, right? I mean, it's that's what it's all is. So, not that there's anything wrong with that. The ego drives you to do better and better things. But when it comes to this type of work, it's the ego can be if the ego is channeled to be desirous of the helping of others, that's when it's the most powerful in this type of work. It's not about you creating this 6-figure business, or 7-figure business or something like that. No, it's about helping people. And I love what you said about, when you came to that place where you developed that simple, or you had the realization of that simple mission, which is to help. But the thing is, what occurred to me when I was reading it and in the book, and when you said it just now, is that, I mean, how many times have you heard that? Like I was a police officer, and what is the standard answer on an oral board for a police officer? Well, I want to help people, right? Well, and it's true. It's true. People, they do want to help people. Of course they do. And there's so many different ways to do that. But the ego being channeled and harnessed in a way that's powerful, and desirous for the help of others is where it's at. And when it comes to this kind of work, I myself have struggled with, with what I was talking about earlier, like, oh shoot, I wasn't successful. And we've talked about that, right? I mean, have you had that same struggle?
Oh, absolutely. And you're looking, there's a lot going on, and it's like you said, ego driven. You want validation, and that's how we feel good about what we're doing, is when somebody tells us, hey man, my life changed. Thank you. And it hurts when things don't work exactly right. And it hurts when you don't hear. There's many times that you just don't know what the after effect was, because it doesn't get shared with you. And so, that's always tough. I do free healings, and it's mostly through email. And I'd say somewhere around half of the people let me know what happened. This is feeling better. You did find what my problem was, because I go in mostly blind, because I don't want the ego to take over. So I don't want to know a lot about what their problems are. I let the spirit take me where I need to go. I don't know much about the people for the most part. And I love it when they talk about, man, you nailed it. You found it. It's that, and that's the ego taking over. And right. So when I go into these things, I most of the time will be in the quantum room. And before I invite the people in that are going to do the healing, I have my higher guides with me. And I asked them to help me get out of that place of ego and out of my head and just go to this, with love energy and to stay away from the competitive side of me and that where I, it shouldn't be a competition on who's going to help the most people. It's about helping the person that's right in front of me. And just keeping that focus and keeping my head out of things and let like you say all the time, let spirit guide me. I stole that from you. You say it to me quite often and I use it a lot. So thank you.
Well, good. I'm glad. I consider you a mentor. So if you say things like that, see, there's the ego. There it is. There it is.
You know that I take notes every time we talk.
No, I didn't know that actually.
I take notes every time we talk. So far, all it says is boogers. But there'll be more.
Don't brush with dog toothpaste.
Yeah.
But because I know, like for me, when it comes to, when you're working on somebody, it's so easy to determine the success of the session with the results that you're hoping to get and what they're hoping to get by the definition that they provide. Right. And that's normal. I mean, that's pretty intuitive and natural, I would say. But the reality, I kept people because, well, don't be attached to outcomes. Don't be attached to outcomes. And it's easy to say, but the thing is, what would you say is what you focus on? Because there is a fulfillment there that's equally more powerful, much more powerful. And what would you say that is? Do you have anything that you focus in on that gives you that fulfills that in you?
Yeah, that is one of the best questions anybody's asked me on these, and it's a tough one to answer. So when I'm on these shows, and maybe we'll just kind of go a little broader, when I'm talking to you on your show or somebody's on mine, you were on mine one time, and when I'm talking to those people, I get this awful feeling. I know how good a show is going to go by how horrible I feel before it starts. If I feel like I'm going to throw up and I never want to do it again and I'm just going to ghost the person, it's going to be a good one. If I go in there, oh man, yeah, I'm really good at this, it's probably not going to be. So the worse I feel, the better the show will end up being. And what I believe is happening is that I'm tuning in to that universal energy. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the energy between me and that person and just the universe in general. And so I would say, even above and beyond the getting great results with people is just feeling that connection, that the feeding of energy, the feeding of the universe to me while I'm doing it is probably a bigger thing than getting the results. But also I've got to tell you that the results, especially when I was starting, are very important. You have, you do a healing session on somebody and you have, and good things start happening for them. And you're thinking, okay, well, did the medicine just kick in? Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe it was just a coincidence. The medicine kicked in right after I did the session. The puppy stayed alive. Did I help with that? Or did the stent that hadn't worked for 2 weeks all of a sudden work? You ask these questions, and then as you stack these coincidences up, you eventually have to tell yourself, you know what? There's something here. I'm somehow helping. I'm a conduit. I'm a whatever, but things are getting better because of the work I'm doing. And so for a while, me anyway, and I'm guessing a lot of people, is you have to have those wins. You have to have those coincidences stack up for you so you can say, yeah, it works. I think just like, you would do in science where you have it statistically significant, we have to have those coincidences line up for us to prove to ourselves what we're doing is valid and true.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I for me, I just started doing this, professionally a few months ago in April. But I did it for several years before that, just as pro bono, but there was something about, and I wasn't doing it as much as you were. I did in the beginning, but then it was more and more rare. And then now that I'm doing it on the regular again, at first it was hard. I found myself really fighting, like feeling like, am I really doing anything for these people? But over time, over a relatively short period of time, and it's ironic too, because I had so many healings that I did before that too. There's these quote unquote coincidences they're not coincidences at all, but your skeptical mind, that need for that tangibility, gets in the way a lot of the times. And I think the more you do it, the other thing is, I think the more tuned you are with the energy, the more conscious you are of stuff going on, the more confident you are in it. But
Sure.
going back to, but I had that actually coincidences, quote unquote coincidences. Yeah. You've had an awful lot of coincidences. But going back to what you were saying about, when you feel a certain way, I think what you're zeroing in on, I don't know if you agree with this, but it seems like you're zeroing in on a person's need, a need for that love connection, a need for the love of the universe that you are providing to them through your channel. And I think, I think I have the same thing. The hardest ones for me, the hardest sessions that I do are the ones where I don't pick up on much. Like, it's just kind of blasé. And it's not that it's not necessarily getting anything. They're getting a healing out of it for sure. And sometimes powerful ones. It's completely opposite on their end. But for you to be conscious of it and tune into it is important part of the process. But I think, again, it comes down to that love that you are longing to provide to the client, to the person receiving. You have a desire to help, and it's a selfless desire. And I don't think you're necessarily looking for anything specific. It's just that it gives you validation that what you're doing is helping. And for me, what I do, kind of what I was getting at with that question, is that, and what I found myself having to do much of the time, usually I get, like you, I get the results and it's tangible, but be driven by the love, be driven by the love that you feel for the person, just as a brother or sister, in oneness. And oneness being what, the universe that we're all connected to, the intelligence, the God, if you will, that we're all connected to. But when that's your drive, is just to help in any way that you can. And even that means that you're providing a channel that creates a little more clarity for them, a little more of a direct conduit for spirit to help them in whatever way the spirit is meant to help them for their highest good. If you do that, and you, without expectation, and you just let that goodness in you, that you connect with that goodness and your desire to love and care for them, that to me is the ultimate fulfillment that you can get. And it's, but it's not, I'm asking this seriously, not just for the audience, but do you find sometimes that that's a struggle? Like connecting with that sense of love? Like, so, not because you're not a loving person, but because, maybe you're bogged down with everything of all the demands that your job has on you and things like that, but yet you're still wanting to help the person. But
for sure that happens. And one of the things that helps me, sometimes I don't feel like I got the result I wanted. Like I didn't get that connection. And I'll make fun of Chuck Woolery, that love connection, with them. And
back two and two.
There we go. Thank you. And so, but one of the things I have to remember is that in quantum physics, they talk about the observer effect. And just by us being there, just by us setting that intent and working, they're better. It may not be better to the point where they go, oh yeah, I'm going to, run a marathon. but something has shifted for them. Energy is running better through them just because we were there. So we were talking about the gentleman that we've both helped recently, that you just talked to me about the other night, and that says, yeah, I'm not feeling anything. Nothing's changing. Something's changing. He's not realizing it. He's not picking it up. And it may be a while before it builds enough pressure that he sees it. But just the simple fact that you're there working with him, the observer effect tells us that he will change. He will have an improvement, because you go in there with a positive intent and with love. And it can't help but get better when you do that.
Yeah. And that's I love that when we can merge the metaphysical and spiritual with scientific knowledge, what you said about the observer effect. They've done studies on, some under an electron microscope where it's there, it's being videoed, and it's there, or it's not there rather. And then as soon as somebody a consciousness actually observes what's going on in there, it appears. And that's scientific fact. So when you can look at that and merge that with the skeptical mind, if you have an analytical mind, you look at that and then you merge that with the faith mind, the more spiritual side of things. It takes things on faith and gut feeling, intuition. But what I would add to that is removing yourself from the equation. That's the other advantage to not having your ego so wrapped up in it, is that you succumb. One of the things that I love about spirit, like what I do, the spirit assisted healing technique, where I actually call in spirits in the astral plane, that I've actually met, and knowing that they're the ones doing the work. That was for me. When I learned that, it created some progress in me, because it was like, oh, these are spirits that are actually guides of mine that I'm channeling through, and they're the ones actually doing the work. So all I have to do, I'm not doing anything. I mean, I knew this already intellectually, of course, but all I have to do is provide a channel and provide a love space, a high frequency for them to come through me and do the work. And they will do what they can and what spirit is guiding them to do, and what's in that person's highest good. And so you remove that need to perform. And more importantly, I love this phrase, let go and let God. That's to me, that's one that's such a simple phrase, but it's so true. I'm here, I'm an active participant, but I ultimately, and this is the reality, we don't have control. We're a participant. We're part of the oneness. We can have an impact. We can make our contribution, but we don't have control. And as a healer, as somebody that's walking in this universe, that's a real, much more realistic, much healthier, and also a much more loving way of looking at things. I'm doing what I can to be your brother or sister, to join you in spirit for your highest good. And I'm going to provide that energy to you, and let God and God's manifestation take over from there. But you have to be connected to that idea of love being the driver in order to be able to do that. If you're hung up on that, on the results and performance, this is one of those things for people that are considering getting into healing. This is one of those things that you kind of have to work through. There's no other way to do it. You're doing it. I don't think anybody, I know you didn't get into this for your ego. You got into it because you want to help, just like you just said. I know that's me too, but it's still a process. It's working through your conditioning. It's working through your own habits and proving yourself to yourself too, or not yourself, but rather letting spirit prove itself to you. You
bet. Yeah, you bet. And if anybody is listening to this, wondering if they can really access love and be a part of that, just remember what you're watching is a retired police officer and an old Marine talking about love. And so if the two of us can do this.
Oh, if I was there, I'd give you a big hug right now and a kiss on the cheek. Oh, happy birthday to the Marines too.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for your service too. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so funny. I actually had forgotten that you were a Marine, and when I read the book, I was reminded. God, he definitely, yeah, you're proof positive that a Marine or a tough guy, a fighter, somebody that can be a fighter, can have an open, warm heart. You know,
Very
and that's
good.
what I was. You know, that's what I was thinking too when you were describing what you do is being you've always been a natural protector. You know, somebody that and me, I'm the same way. You know, you know, kind of in that same type of frequency, but there's different forms of protector. You know?
Absolutely.
And right now,
go ahead. Yeah, it's just how this developed was from finding that quantum room, working with the energy, and knowing that I was going to be helping people that were having severe problems with a haunting, a possession, you know, whatever the case may be, and that we needed warriors to go in there and maybe get rid of something. That was how it all started, and then it evolved into having from having just a warrior team to having a warrior team plus a love team to having the 7 generations that come and help, and the love team is much more powerful than the warrior team, and the 7 generations are much more powerful than the love team. So it's all energy.
Just for the people that aren't familiar, can you describe the warrior team and the love team and the 7 generations?
Yeah. So this started with me being asked. I was on a paranormal team, and I was asked to join a second team, and we would go to houses that were haunted so bad that nobody could help them, or people that were having so much trouble with an entity or whatever that nothing else would help them. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. I want to help, and but I don't know how to. And so we started looking at different ways to help. And one of them was we brought in a shaman that was teaching us how to access our energy and create protection. And as she was teaching us this, she was saying, now your energy is going to be this color, and it's going to be warm, and it's going to look like this. Mine was not the color she said. Excuse me. Mine was not the color she said. It was light blue. And I think she was saying it should be an orange. I can't remember the color, but mine was light blue. Didn't match up with hers. Mine was cold. Didn't match up with hers. Mine looked a little bit like a ball that could expand. Didn't look like hers. And so I kind of disengaged from that training and did it on my own later and started to find these things. And I knew that if I was going to be helping people, I not only had to give them protection, but I needed to get rid of what was there. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have a warrior team. And so I was in the quantum room, and I just said, I need a warrior team. Who can help me? And through the mist that is my quantum room, a little beagle came out. And this was Desi, a dog that I'd had, not a lot bigger than your dog, not a lot bigger than Tyson and Pepper, but she came out, and she was a perfect first part of the warrior team. Ferocious. If you were a rat or a snake, you had a short life in our yard. If you were a dog that didn't belong there, you were going to be in pain. And she didn't care if you were a Great Dane or a husky or a pit bull. She was going to engage, and she didn't appreciate other things in her yard. But if you were a person, she was the sweetest thing you ever saw. And so I thought, yeah, she's great for this. And then other dogs of mine joined the warrior team, some Springer Spaniels that I had. And then through the years, it's evolved even farther to where there's a lot of different animals. There's horses that come to help, cats that come to help, a rat that comes to help. A giraffe just joined. And with the exception of the giraffe, everything that has come to help in the warrior team is something that I knew, something that I'd been around. And so I'm really thankful that the giraffe came. And what the warrior team does is finds items on people that shouldn't be there. And I call them, there's a couple different things they could be: companions, which started out as positive and now cause trouble, or a parasite that started out as a problem and has gotten worse, or or something that's even worse than that is you could call it a demon, you can call it an alien, you call it something that's alive that's causing the trouble. The other two things are just energy, and we can work with those pretty easily. But the ones that are alive, whatever you want to call them, and they usually look a bit like a demon or an alien, those are the tough ones to work with. And so the warrior team, their job is to find these things and kind of subdue them, hold them still so that we can give them debriding energy. So we're cleaning them off, we're scraping them off, we're getting them ready to be healed, these companions. And then we fill them up with love energy and they transform. We pulled a rag out of a woman, out of her heart. Now this is all metaphysical. I'm not standing there pulling things out of people. They're in other states. This is all spirit and energy when I'm describing this. But we pulled a rag from around.
Metaphoric, so they're appearing to you so that you can understand. You can comprehend what's happening, but it's not literally these physical things.
Correct. Not literally reaching into somebody's body and taking things out.
Or like you said, like if it's a rag, it isn't literally, even energetically, that's not what it is, but it's appearing that way so that you can understand it.
Sure. Yes.
Would you say that's accurate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very accurate.
Okay.
And so we clean it up, we give it love after it's been cleaned, and it transforms. That rag that we took out of the woman transformed into a very beautiful young man that looked up at this lady with a big smile. And then he left. That energy had moved from something that had one time been good for her that she needed. Over the years, as she grew and developed, it was no longer effective for her and was actually causing her trouble with her heart. And then we released that so it could go off into the universe and be what it was supposed to be, which is loving energy, helping people.
So. And so what you're saying about the love thing, I think that's really important, really poignant, because like you were saying, you created this warrior team. The idea is to go, I'm going to go in there and clean house. I'm going to get this shit off these people. I'm going to,
right.
And the reality, I mean, sometimes there's a story in the book that I won't tell too much about it because it's so, to me, it's so interesting. But the triangle head guy,
yes,
he really was evil. He had evil intentions, and there wasn't any loving that was going to clean him out of there. Which you were said, by the way, what you said about feeling like you were weak or somehow you did something wrong by not being able to get him with positivity. I disagree with that. I think there are evil that just getting their asses kicked is the best thing for them. You're bringing them to light by giving them a shellacking and teaching them a lesson.
I hated to share it, but I wanted to be honest with people. There's things out there that we had to do that with. So I felt like it was best to tell the truth, even though it was uncomfortable for me to talk about that.
Yeah. But one of the things at Delphi where I go to school, Charles Curcio, who's one of the main instructors up there, one of the things that he talks, so he does a lot of healing and extractions and like physically removes things from people. And one of the things he talks about is that initially, he's also a Marine. He was in Vietnam. He's also the founder of Tire Kingdom in Florida, by the way. So this guy is he's a fighter. And his initial reaction or instinct was to fight. He looked at these parasites or companions, or as if you will, as adversaries, and he wanted as things that needed to be expunged and
yes.
and that very negative light. And what he had happen was there was an attachment that started crying. And it was a demon that started crying. And he realized that, wait a minute, sometimes they're not necessarily evil. They're fighting for their own existence. And he sent this thing to the light and gave it a second chance. So got a Semper Fi on the comments.
Excellent.
And thank you, Heidi, by the way, for the shout out as far as the clarification there. A few comments here and there, right? But the point is that the love energy, it's ultimately everything is about love, right? That's what I believe. That's what God's about, and not that there's not darkness, but the darkness is there to teach about the light. You're not going to know light unless you know darkness. I know it's kind of a counterintuitive thing, but it's, if you think about it, it's true. And so when you're, as a healer, when your ultimate goal is to send, the negative, the things that are having a negative impact on the client to the light. So you're removing it to help the client, but you're also trying to help whatever attachment that is, sending them to the light, and so that they can become a positive force in the universe.
Absolutely, be what they could be.
And so you're the whole thing about you having the love team in addition to the warrior team, I think, is just really important and powerful, and it's so illustrative of what this ultimately is all about. It's not about being a badass, even though you sometimes have to be one. I'm privy to some of the stuff Todd has done that we're not going to talk about on the air, but he is a certified badass. So I'm just going to say that.
Thank
you. Let's see. We're getting towards the end of our time, but I made a lot of notes as I went through, and one of in the book, one of the things that you talked about was the polymedellas.
Yes.
And where there was a part of it where you were shown a vision where you expanded out as you were in the quantum room with the spirit. You were shown the solar system, going for the planets, then the solar system, then the Milky Way. Like, it was like this big thing, what you described. What I found interesting there, and then the ultimate message was, we are one, right? That was the message that you got. I found that really interesting because when I had my, I'm a Reiki master, but I've also been trained in animal Reiki, and during one of the guided meditations that we did in our class, it was almost exactly the same vision.
Oh, wow.
Where I expanded out, and it was like, I mean, it was awesome. It was almost like watching a movie. Like, it's like, and then at the end, it just said, we are one. It was like, it was really powerful. So I guess, that is something that I want to, just really remind people and impart to people, is that ultimately this is about oneness. This is about us all being connected, and realizing that we're all in this together, and that ultimately there's nothing to fear. There's not, as we're all connected to God. And Sherry says, sometimes I believe that one must go within the dark to pull out the light. And that's absolutely true. I think that's true. That's true too. You're not gonna sometimes know what you need, how important the light is to your existence and to that of the universe, until you delve in deep and experience that darkness.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't want to I'm kind of on my soapbox here, but but yeah, what going back to Julin, what he said about you, giving you guidance on how to deal with the triangle head. Yeah, I think sometimes it's as much as you want to help and send a spirit to the light, sometimes it's just not possible. Sometimes they're not ready. But that ass kicking that you give them is going to have an impact on them somewhere along the line, right?
Yeah, and I hope in a future life of that thing, it's much better behaved and doesn't use people the way it was using Ron and I believe probably other people. And I just want to expand a little bit on the polymedellas. What it means is many healings. And so what those are designed to do, and not necessarily designed, but what happens with them is they're out of time. So when you read them, you're there with me when I had that experience. So as you're reading it, even though we're in different times physically, in the quantum room, in the spirit world, in the energy, it's happening at the same time. So the experience I had would be the same one you did. And that's one of the neat things about the polymodel. Somebody can read it 20 years from now, and it was spawned by something that happened today, but they jump on. They still get that same energy, the same feel, because the time in the spirit realm is completely different than what we deal with. It can't be it really can't be compared. So those are good forever. The polymodel.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, though, just about time and space, because it's so easy to get caught up. One of the techniques that I use when I'm working, because I don't have the kind of vision that you have. I wish I did. Maybe it'll develop at some point. They like to say up until now is what they say at Delphi. But I do try to stay cognizant of that reality. The reality of time and space being a construct that we need it's a convenience that we need so we can comprehend our existence here in this physical plane. And so what I do is I try to just picture energy, and I just let go. It's going where it needs to go, and it's not governed by these physical limitations. And one of the things that I love about working with you is, by the way, we hadn't really explained this, but Todd and I team up a lot of. We've done it quite a few times at this point with people that we think our two particular modalities or methodologies could really benefit. And the thing that's beneficial for me is that you can see my energy.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can't. I can feel it physically, but I can't see it. And like the one that we did yesterday, where you could see the outline of my body, and you could see me going to his head.
Yes.
And what's okay. So Todd's working on this person out in Oregon, and I'm out here in Florida, and he's seeing. I am actually setting this intention to do this, to work on his head and his neck, and Todd actually says it's really validating for me. But the one that really blew my mind was when you saw the corkscrew energy signature. Apparently, that's what I have an energy signature that's in the shape of a spiral, because yes. Todd saw it when we were working together, and one of my classmates at Delphi, no relation, no connection to Todd, no conversation ever had about our work together, saw the same exact energy signature while we were working together there. So pretty cool. Just I'm sharing this because it's to me, it's if you take it on face value, it's evidence that this is, I mean, not that we really need that, but it's always validating and affirming to hear these types of things, that where you actually physically or with your own consciousness seen it, shout out to Erwin, who says, excellent interview. It's like overhearing two good friends talking, and wonderful content.
Absolutely.
We have become pretty good friends. So it's true. But it's good that we can be natural on the air, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it was amazing how quickly we became friends. It's only been a few months, and you would think that just as I think of you, I think of somebody that I've known for a really long time. But in reality, it was the start of summer.
But the reality is we probably have.
Yeah, most likely.
If you think things on a spiritual level, I'm sure we've known each other for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of getting to that point, but your book is The Slipstream Shaman, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you haven't been tantalized to read it, I hope you will be, because it's a great read. It's entertaining. It's an easy read, it's because it's fascinating, first of all, and it's entertaining, and it's one of those that just kind of sucks you in, and it goes really fast. But it's one you won't regret. You'll enjoy it a lot. So I hope you'll check it out. And what's the best way to get the book or check the book out?
Okay, you can go to Amazon and search Slipstream Shaman and get it that way, or you can go to my website, which is also slipstreamshaman.com, and there's a link there that will take you to Amazon to purchase it. There's also a link for an email there if you want to reach out to me. I get to people as soon as I can. There's been times where I got almost 2 months behind on the healings because I can only do so many in a day. They take a bit out of me. But right now I'm looking at about 2 weeks out for any of them. If anybody wants a healing, just leave me a note. Don't give me too much information, just your name and a couple basic things. And I will get to you. And you may be thinking, 2 months from now that I forgot, but I didn't. I just get behind. I can physically only do so many in a day. And also I'd encourage you to go to Instagram and follow me there, Slipstream Shaman. And that's where all the new things will be talked about. So when there's a new polymedella, we're going to be doing some videos on YouTube on the polymedellas that we work on. When there's a new one of that, we'll announce it on Instagram. And then as the new book, there's a book on trauma release coming out soon. That's going to be really wonderful. It affects anybody that is in a career or a place in life where there's so much trauma around them and they just need to let it go. So first responders, military, medical, people that work in retail, there's a lot of people that can get rid of some trauma. And so that's what the next one's about. And then the third one will be for kids, and it's aimed at healthy kids getting better and sick kids getting to the healthy level. And so it'll address a few different things. It'll really help some kids. It'll help all of them max out what they are capable of. So those are the two in the works, and Instagram will be the first place that you hear about those as they're ready.
Awesome. Well, and there's also a new development that just happened within the last couple of days, right? Don't you have a whole new radio show that's going to premiere here before long?
I do, and there's a logo much like the one that's behind us in these pictures. I'll be on this same station, and I'm really excited about that. The other Todd has been working on putting together the intro, and it's just done a masterful job. I get goosebumps when I listen to it. I've let friends listen to it, and it's really good. And so I'm excited about that, and it's going to premiere on the 22nd. I'll be on Tuesdays at noon Central Time. And really looking forward to that. Slipstream Shaman, and we're gonna sometimes we'll do a day like this where we just talk. Other times I might have somebody on and do a healing. Who knows what we'll be doing, but I'm super excited about it. What a great format, and Todd is great to work with. You weren't kidding when you told me Todd was great to work with. So super excited about that, and it's coming up fast. So. Yeah. I've got to keep ahead of Todd, and that's no easy feat. That guy is fast.
Yeah, he is fast. And we're also talking about possibly doing like maybe once on each of our shows, once a month, getting together and or actually each of our shows every other month, which will end up being once a month total, doing a thing where we do live healings. Yes. Working together to do that, which could be pretty cool. We'll have to see how it goes. And I don't know how it's going to work as far as being live, but but we can definitely do it. I was thinking, if you guys being my friends and how this is developed, you'll be known as my two Todds.
Having two little Todds with you, that's a pretty good
thing. Todd, get over here. So I'm excited, and I'm glad that she took my advice and reached out because he is great. He makes it so easy, and he's such a good dude. So and so much on the right wavelength for the kind of work that we're doing too. So all good things. Yes. You said you can reach you on the email. Okay, Okay. Is there anything else? Oh, what about your other radio show?
The other radio show, you can search it. It starts out as a radio show in Utah on KOAL, and then transfers over to a podcast, and it's called My Side of the Universe. And the podcast has a lot of cool different interviews I've done, and it's paranormal, it's healing. You were on it. That's how we met. And but we've had some really neat guests. For those of you that are Star Trek fans, we had Tuvok. Tim Russ, who played Tuvok on Voyager, was on it. But my all-time favorite guest was really an iconic part of my childhood. And if any of you watched the old Star Trek and you remember the slow-moving lizard man that fought Captain Kirk, I had Billy Clark, the stuntman who played the lizard on the show. And what a treat it was to talk to somebody that had terrified me for 50 years. And so that's one of my favorite ones. But if you watch Ancient Aliens, you'll see a lot of people. You'll recognize a lot of the names. I've been really honored to have some great guests from all over Ancient Aliens, and then Jim Vieira from a lot of different shows, In Search of the Lost Giants and things like that. And one of the smartest people I've ever been around. And just some really amazing guests. So there's some cool stuff to listen to, and including Brandon. Brandon worked his way. I'm
honored to have been included amongst those people, those guests.
You're in a pretty cool pile, man.
Yeah, awesome. So, all right. Well, hey, Todd, thanks so much for being on, and it won't be the last time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We'll have lots of case. Maybe one of these times we could have you on and talk about different case studies and such. I'm sure we can occupy a fascinating hour on that sort of thing. But thank you, and I hope the rest of your day goes well out there in the Wild West of Oregon.
Yeah, we only got a few more hours, so things are going good. So thank you. I appreciate
crazy times.
Yep, you do a great job, and you've picked up fast, man. From that first show, you found a groove, you found your voice, and you did great that first one. But each one you get more in there, and it's fun to watch you.
Having a good guest certainly makes it easier, and just doing what I do. I'm just trying to be a voice and spread the word so other people can experience that same peace that we're having. That's my goal.
Excellent.
A little bit at a time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you. And talk to you soon.
All right.
And for those of you that are still tuned in, again, if you haven't gotten my book already, I hope you will check it out, Tysons Gift. You can find it on tysonsgift.com. If you want to check out my healing offerings, it's tysonsgifthealing.com. I've also got an Instagram page for Tysons Gift, as well as on Facebook, the book, as well as the healing arts. So, and you can reach out on the website, either tysonsgift.com or tysonsgifthealing.com. You can reach out to me if you have any questions or if you want a healing. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you. It's next week. I will be out. I'm going to actually be up at Delphi for class for the week. And the following week after that is Thanksgiving. I'm probably not going to have a show just because so many people will be eating turkey. But definitely, it may be that week, but definitely the week after we'll have a guest on. So I hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.